Antarctica is the only continent which isn't a country, doesn't have a government, nor any indigenous tribal living there for ages. One of the most obvious reasons is that it is the coldest continent in the world. The temperature can go as low as -89 degrees Celsius. Additionally, it is also the windiest place on Earth. With snowstorms at a speed of 300 kilometers per hour, it can blind you. Antarctica is also the world's driest continent, to the extent that you might be surprised to know that it is considered a desert. There's only around 51 millimeters of rain here, and even when it rains, it turns into snow before reaching the ground. So in a way, Antarctica is the only place on Earth with little to no influence of humans. But it doesn't mean that countries all across the world haven't tried to take over Antarctica. Look at this map. France claims this part of Antarctica, Norway claims this part, Australia lays its claim on the entire part on the right side. Countries like Britain, Chile, Argentina, and New Zealand claim various parts of Antarctica. So is Antarctica truly divided among these countries? In today's video, let's get to know the interesting geopolitics and history of Antarctica. It was around 350 BC, the Greek philosopher Aristotle was among the first people to say that the Earth was spherical. At the time, the Greeks were aware of the Arctic regions in the north. They had named it the Arctos. The word Arctos was derived from the bear. The constellations that we can see in the sky, one of them is of the Great Bear. They were inspired by that constellation and named the Arctic region Arctos. Because they knew that the Earth is spherical, they knew that the north and south are like mirror images and would have similar features. So they named the unknown southern region Antarctos. It meant antithetical to the bear, the opposite of Arctos. And from here, the name Antarctic was derived. Humans stepped on Antarctica for the first time during the 1890s, but hundreds of years before that, Antarctica had started appearing on maps. When several explorers went on expeditions around the world, they knew that if they went to the south of the world, they come upon some land. But they didn't know what was on the land exactly, or how big it is. This is why when the French explorers made the world map in the year 1530, they had drawn Antarctica. Look at this map. The northern hemisphere is depicted on the left side, and the southern hemisphere on the right side. The largest land mass in the middle of the southern hemisphere was named It, literally meant unknown southern land. About 200 years later, in 1773, British naval officer James Cook became the first person to go to the south of the Antarctic Circle. He was about 130 kilometers farther from Antarctica when he turned his ship around. Even though he hadn't seen Antarctica, he had seen icebergs with rock deposits on them. When he saw those rocks, he concluded that Terra Australis does exist. But going much closer to Antarctica was so dangerous that he had famously said he was so sure that no one could reach Antarctica because the place was so perilous, with strong winds blowing and the ship at danger of hitting icebergs at any moment. But his words were proven wrong 50 years later. It is quite controversial as to who was the first person to step on Antarctica, because several people claim to have been the first person. British-American Captain John Davis believed that he was the first person to do so, because his ship was lost, and he reached Antarctica. The first undisputed landing was in 1895, when a Norwegian ship called the Antarctic reached its shores. 6 to 7 members of the crew of this ship got into a small boat and went on to the land. A Norwegian in the boat was Karsten Borchgrevink, claims that he landed before the boat, and he was the first to step on Antarctica. But a man from New Zealand, Alexander, claims to have been on this boat, and to keep the boat steady, he was the first one to step out of the boat. These two people from the same boat got into an argument about who was the first to get off and the first to step on Antarctica. There's a funny drawing of it too, as you can see on the screen. Alexander is sneaking out of the boat so that he could be the first man to step on Antarctica. And the rest of the people in the boat are looking at him in surprise because they too wanted to be the first. After this, the first 20 years of the 1900s are known as the heroic years of Antarctica. Because many expeditions were conducted during this time, there were new scientific discoveries, and we found out many new things about Antarctica. It was the first time we found out that there are plants growing on this continent. Mosses were found growing in Antarctica. After this heroic era came the colonial period of Antarctica, when several countries tried to lay claim on Antarctica.
Welcome to Rise Peak, the channel where stories ignite your soul, facts blow your mind, and motivation fuels your every step. From untold tales of grit to fascinating truths that leave you inspired, we're here to empower your climb to greatness. Ready to rise? Let's go.
Between 1908 and 1942, 7 countries, Argentina, Australia, Chile, France, New Zealand, Norway, and the UK, claimed parts of Antarctica. Others, like the United States, Soviet Union, and Germany, explored without claiming territory. In 1939, Nazi Germany even dropped swastikas to mark their control. The USA, however, declared in 1924 that discovery alone didn't grant ownership. Permanent settlements were required. After World War II, countries intensified their claims by setting up research stations, like Australia's Mawson Station, 1954, and Argentina's General Belgrano Station, 1955. These stations often overlapped, especially in areas claimed by Chile, Britain, and Argentina. By 1950, the Soviet Union warned it wouldn't recognize claims made without its consent, raising Cold War tensions. To prevent conflict, President Eisenhower proposed a treaty in 1958. The Antarctic Treaty ensured Antarctica would be used only for peaceful purposes, allowed free scientific research, and required sharing findings globally. This landmark agreement temporarily suspended territorial disputes, preserving Antarctica as a continent of science and peace. Initially, this treaty was signed by 12 governments, including all countries which were claiming territory on Antarctica. But the most interesting thing about this treaty is that the claims of these countries weren't abolished. This treaty merely suspended those claims temporarily. So legally, even now, these countries can continue to claim those territories, and they are doing so indeed. This treaty is set to expire in 2048. Post that, whether this treaty would be renewed or not will have to be seen. 1991, the Madrid Protocol was signed in Spain, banning drilling and mining in Antarctica to protect its environment. Studies estimate 19 billion barrels of oil beneath the ice, with Russian experts claiming up to 500 billion barrels. However, mining hasn't happened due to the treaty and high costs. But climate change is melting the ice, making access easier and potentially cheaper in the future. The treaty expires in 2048, and if not renewed, resource exploitation could begin. Already, countries like China are expanding fishing and tourism, while private yachts illegally exploit the region. Calls for new regulations to protect Antarctica's oceans are growing. Despite collaboration under the Antarctic Treaty, loopholes exist. Tourists can get passports stamped at stations like Port Lockroy, subtly reinforcing territorial claims. Without a police force or legal system, Antarctica's future remains uncertain. Will it stay protected, or will exploitation prevail? It is another way through which these countries express their claims. What do you think, friends? What should be Antarctica's future? Should things continue as they are? Countries collaborating together, not allowed to do mining and drilling, and people can be allowed to go there for scientific research or tourism. Or should we explore Antarctica even more? Comment below to let me know. I hope you enjoyed the video as always. If this video was interesting to you, you will be interested in this video about Mars. Click here to access it. Let's meet in the next video.
Thank you for being a part of the Rise Peak community. Together, we're climbing higher, discovering more, and turning dreams into achievements. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep the inspiration alive. Your journey is just beginning. Stay motivated, stay curious, and as always, keep rising.